speaker today, the one that will lead this session, Jonsson. Woo!
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and great to see you here this afternoon. I know that some of you know me from before, so I will not be too much about myself. But basically, I'm passionate about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about vulnerability, professional relationships, personal relationships, and we're going to talk about networking. I have a corporate career myself behind me. I worked in Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, also over in the Philippines and Singapore, where I was based for 5 years. I worked in leadership positions, running the big companies. In Indonesia, for example, I worked with International SOS, managing 72 hospitals and clinics. So I know what it's like to be a senior executive. I know the pressures of delivering to a board, to delivering to a boss, and I know what it takes. I was there. And what I do today is different, being with EGN, being in the peer network world. I'm in touch with about 890 leaders in Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia, which are part of the EGN network now. And I will share with you what I learned from my corporate careers, and more importantly, what I've learned from all the leaders that I'm working with on a day-to-day basis. So, it's about building authentic relationships. We're going to spend 4 hours together today, but I promise you, they're going to go faster. The faster you won't feel it's 4 hours together, because we're going to be interactive with each other. My hope is when you leave here today, you have made a lot of reflections, you learned to know yourself better, and hopefully you will be approaching networking events and so on, feeling better about them and knowing how to get something out of it. I'm a big believer of strategizing our networking. Just like you will write a strategy or have plans for your business, I want you to think about networking in professional relationships in a strategic way. That is what I'm hoping we're going to go through today. So, to start us off with some gratitude, I call it the gratitude moment, and to break the ice, if I can get all of you to just share with the person sitting next to you, what are you grateful for today? Share something that you're excited about. I can just share, for example, first. Let me go first about my gratitude moment. It was waking up 5:30 a.m. this morning, and I went to a run past where you have the National Mosque, up to the bird park, and it was so beautiful. It was quiet, it was peaceful, and I went for that jog, and I just felt that was a beautiful start of the day. So today I'm very grateful for that moment, and I'm grateful for my health. So now you can share, just with introduce yourself to the partner next to you and share, what are you grateful for? I give you 1 minute for this. right, so that was a bit of a gratitude moment. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to come back to more small little tips and tricks like this, because it's about programming your mind in a positive way. Well, could I ask someone, if you can ask your partners the permission to share what you heard. Was it someone at this table who heard something positive that you can share?
Hi, good afternoon. So I heard from this beautiful lady that she meditates for 30 minutes. Right?
Woo!
She felt super good with that. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, indeed. Isn't it wonderful to start with meditation, to ground yourself and have a positive start to the day? Anyone else who heard something inspirational you want to share?
Yes. So from when something very simple, but the water disruptions are gone. Water is back to normal, but something so simple can be such big impact into our lives and our mood and our positivity for the day. So I think that's a good one.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And can we ask over there?
From this table, who want to share? Go ahead.
What I heard from Dr. Ellen was a cup of coffee, so which is refreshing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Coffee is refreshing. All right.
Yeah, and it smelled nice. I agree. It's a lovely. I also had a coffee this
All right,
morning.
from this table. Okay.
My left body and my right body both are very grateful for good health.
Good health, yeah.
Yay.
Well,
Thank you so much.
health is something special. We take it for granted, and when we're losing it, as I will mention later today, we are so fragile. Okay, well, thanks for starting with a bit of a gratitude moment, and thanks for breaking the ice and getting to know each other a little bit. Now we're going to talk about the topic of vulnerability. You know, I spoke to some of my British friends and English friends. They say, vulnerability is such a difficult word. Even to just spell it out, vulnerability, you can almost get stuck, you know. And what do you think, or what do you feel when you hear vulnerability? Anyone want to share?
Powerless?
Powerless?
When I feel weak in a certain moment.
What did you say?
Feeling weak in a certain moment.
Feeling weak in a certain moment, yes. Anyone else?
Exposure.
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 A little fear,
Fear, yes.
anxiety.
Anxiety, yes.
Showing up as yourself.
Yeah? Yeah. Vulnerability, if you're looking back traditionally, it is perhaps a bit of everything you said there. If you're talking about us men, for example, many of us were grown up perhaps with parents who said, you know, if you fall over and you cry, come on, be a man, be strong, be powerful. And many times we're taken perhaps that version with us into adult life. We try to show up at university, we try to show up perhaps at the workplace. And in fact, we had an EGN event this morning, and during the coffee break I was talking to one of the senior leaders who is Vice President Asia, managing teams in India, Thailand, Malaysia, and so on. And he was talking about the problems and challenges he had of being vulnerable in front of his team. He said, they all come to me for answers. And he said, how can I be vulnerable? I'm the boss, I'm the one to drive them. And he really, really struggled with this concept. And it can be complicated. It can be challenging. But I hope that today we can master it a little bit better together. So we're going to have an open conversation about vulnerability today. And let's share from the dictionaries. What do the dictionaries say about vulnerability? If we look at Cambridge, they say the quality of being vulnerable, able to be easily hurt, influenced, or attacked. That's a pretty negative description of vulnerability. Perhaps a bit in line with what I said before. If we look at Wikipedia, it's talking about being exposed, being attacked, being harmed. So when we hear that, does it sound like we want to be vulnerable? Do we want to be attacked? Or the fact of being weak, easily hurt, physically and emotionally, that's Oxford learners. So if these are the definitions that are still today, these I just checked up to make sure they're still there, at least last month. Those are the definitions of vulnerability. And that is the old school according to me, that is still there. Then I want to ask you, is vulnerability a strength or a weakness?
Both.
Both. Anyone else?
I think being vulnerable, whether it's strength and weakness, but it's reflecting the true self. Yeah. Yeah, it's like reflecting our true self, so we are not perfect. So we are there
I
to
think
learn every day.
it also depends on how you want to, project yourself to the external world, how you want to use your vulnerability as a strength or a weakness really depends on you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I think it's a strength,
Yeah.
because not many people are able to show this openly, and I think if people have the courage to do that, it's definitely something, a strength in somebody.
Yeah. Thank you for the reflections. And indeed, I had written it can be a strength, it can be a weakness, it can depend, and it's quite vague. It depends how you use it, I would say. So let me just share a couple of alternative definitions to vulnerability. Perhaps the new school. I've been researching the topic. In fact, my second book is about vulnerability. I'm writing the book now, so I'm deep inside the topic, researching it, interviewing leaders on vulnerability. And some of the definitions I come across, this is from Psych Central, and they say the willingness to take risk, to show emotions, and provide honest expression despite fears. Willingness to take risk, to show emotions, and provide honest expression despite fears. Any thoughts on this definition? Does it sound like leadership?
Yes.
Yeah. If we look by Brené Brown, she's a professor. She studied at University of Houston. She's a researcher on vulnerability. She's spending her life studying the topic. And she says, vulnerability is the core, the heart, the center of meaningful human experiences. That's what she believes vulnerability is. So she means that it's something we really feel. If I'm looking at Andy Lopata, and Andy Lopata, in fact, he's in my book. He wrote the forewords to my Executive Loneliness book, which you all get a copy from today. He says vulnerability is a step on our path to victory. We know we are falling short and understand the importance of enrolling other people to support us. So Andy says that we understand and admit to ourselves, we are fully aware that we don't know everything in this world. And when we admit that, we can expose ourselves and ask others to help us. Andy says in his book called Just Ask that using your network, your peer network, can be your greatest strength. And that's what we're touching on today. Using your network can be your greatest strength. Because imagine if you're a strong leader, you're trying to have all the answers, you will go by your own intuition, you will be right a lot of the times. But imagine taking a step back and having the approach of Andy here to understand that you will be falling short here and here and here. So you better connect with those people and tell them and ask them to help you. So do you believe a strong leader can also be vulnerable? Yeah, absolutely. And this is the new school of thought. This is where we're coming with this, that it's about admitting that we don't have all the answer. And here's my take, what I've written then about vulnerable leadership. I'm saying leaders embracing vulnerability combine the strength with authenticity. We got that from the back of the room, yeah, the authenticity there. Fostering relatable connections and resilience. They seek diverse perspectives, enriching well-being, and defining a path to exceptional leadership. So, by being honest to themselves, understanding therefore the weaknesses and seeking out. We had an event this morning with this gentleman. Who knows who this is? Dato Iris Jalla, actually in this room here. We just had an event with him this morning. We talk about his leadership lessons from turning around Malaysia Airlines and working with the government as a minister. And we're talking to him about vulnerability. We spent 3 hours in this room learning from him on this topic. And let me share with you what Dato Iris Jalla had to say about vulnerability in leadership based on his life experience. The first, he said, is one of my key leadership principles in life. He also says, just do your best, but it's okay to fail. We will all fail. We will all make mistakes. The only problem is when we are too stubborn to admit it to ourselves and other people. That's when we face big problems. That's what he believes. Admit your mistakes, make amends, apologize for them, and he believes that humility is the key in leadership. That sits at the heart of leadership. And I couldn't agree more. And he also said, all the things that happen in his life, about 80% of it has been outside of his control, and he has to accept it and just move on. He has dreams, visions, put big targets and goals in his life, but if he hits them, he talks about setting goals so big that you might not even hit them, to be scared, so you have to take a step back and rethink and to change and to grow yourself. And if we are scared of failure, then we cannot have that big mindset. So again, being vulnerable, admitting when we are wrong, makes us positive as persons. We set big goals, we try to always move forward. Now let me share my story with you. And if you read my book, you know a little bit about it, but I will share some of my learnings with you. And the book is not only about me, I wrote it and I interviewed a lot of the leaders in Asia, so it's based on their experience. Here am I a couple of years ago, a little bit bigger than now. I gained 30 kilos, and while I'm smiling on the picture there, I was not well inside. There's been a few personal incidents in my life at that time, and I was not well. I had lost my healthy habits. My healthy diet was exchanged to fast food, and my exercise routine and running marathons and so on. I suddenly lost the appetite for exercise. Instead, I went to the bar and I was drinking. And it became a very bad habit, and I gained the weight. I started to make excuses for it. Then later on, I had so much anxiety inside me that my left foot swallowed up. I went to the doctors, did x-ray. They didn't find anything wrong with it. It was actually a psychosomatic illness. It was only later on a psychologist diagnosed it as psychosomatic illness, which is when you have anxiety and depression. And it was so bad that I kept it inside, that it was showing up on the outside. I did not talk to anyone about this. I was terrified of someone finding out that I had some problems. It led me to this stage in 2018. I wrote my will, my testament. I was not suicidal, but I couldn't think my way out of the situation. It was all this negative talk to me. My health is breaking down. I started to cough. I was looking at my foot. I went to the doctor. My blood pressure was high. The cholesterol was bad. And I was sure I was going to die. I was just telling myself every day, as I gained more weight, lost my health more and more, that this is over, I'm going to die. And I didn't still share to one person. Then one day, in 2018, I shared to one person. So Donna, who's with me in the room today, is now my wife. I told her, I'm not feeling well inside. I said, this is my issue. And she listened with empathy. And as soon as I had told her, I was starting to feel better. You have probably heard the saying, a problem shared is a problem halved. And that was my experience. As soon as she listened, she did what any human being would have done. She dragged me to the doctor, and she told the doctor what I told her. So there I was exposed again. And I got medicine and so on. Since that day, I've not had one drop of alcohol. I changed my diet, I started to exercise, and I was fine again. So that was just a moment. By just opening up to one person, to dare to be vulnerable. That was the day when I changed my life. And I said, whenever I have something on my mind, I will just share it, be human about it, and then the help is there. So that was a big experience for me This is a photo of me just 1 year later, from being that overweight guy, unhealthy, competing in an Ironman in Sweden, 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer ride, and running a marathon. Thank you. So in 1 year, that's the life transformation. And I maintained that kind of health since that time. And now, as soon as something I feel not right, I write it down on a pen and paper. I think, who can I share this with? And I share it with them. If it's personal or a business issue, it doesn't matter. We need to have these safe spaces and the people we can trust to talk to. So that made a big difference on my journey. So 1 year into my recovery, something happened. This is a good friend of mine, Simon, an ex-senior executive, and he was going to talk at one of our events. We're there at the rehearsal, and he didn't show up. And this was an event that, again, changed my life forever. After the event, I checked my phone, and I had a message. He had died of suicide. And I was full of questions. What happened to Simon? What happened? He seemed to have it all. He had just been to Mount Everest. He had a girlfriend. He had just posted on social media how happy he was. And I couldn't understand what happened to him. When I called his family in the UK, I found out that indeed he had died of suicide, but they also didn't have any answers. Obviously, it was something on his mind that he had not shared with people. Why am I sharing this with you? Well, because in my situation where I was sick, if I would have played it forward another year or 6 months or a year, I could maybe have gone to this level. I can see the path because I was, let's say, halfway there. In my depression and anxiety, I had felt it, how dangerous it can be by being in your own head. And I can see the difference from opening up. We all go through life, the roller coaster of life. We need to break it as soon as we have some feelings and talk to someone. So when that happened to Simon, I decided again to change my course of life. And I set up a fund to raise awareness of executive loneliness. You have all heard the saying, it's lonely at the top? Yes, it is. It can be for senior executives, it can be for entrepreneurs, for the CEOs, but it can also be lonely in the middle of an organization if you not talk to people. So I'm today keep spreading the message, and I'm a fundraiser and a volunteer for a suicide hotline where I have received training and to be supporting them because people can pick up the phone call and call when they have thoughts and feelings around that. I wanted to learn from this so I can help others. So let me just ask you a few questions here. Mental health at work. How many % do you think do not talk about the mental health challenges in the company? Anyone want to guess? This is a survey we did in Singapore 2020.
Probably 90%.
90%? 100%? These are senior executives, C-suite level, VPs. Okay. 84%. So that means that 84% of the senior executives, if they have some issues, they are facing the depression, anxiety, something like what I was going through, they wouldn't tell the company. They wouldn't tell the boss. They wouldn't tell the HR. They would do everything they can to cover it up, which I try to do, which is obviously what Simon did. No one found out what was going through because of this is the issue. Why do you think it is like that? Why do we cover it up like this?
The fear of being judged.
Yeah, the fear of being judged, yes.
And it's not safe to share sometimes because you don't know how certain people will use it against you later on.
But if we break our arm, there's no problems going to say to our company, I broke my arm, I need some time off for work. No problems. But if we have something on our head or brain that is stress, anxiety, we are scared, right? So this is something we need to change, and we need to break this. We need to break this pattern, that be comfortable. And I will share with you today some tools and tricks for you, but also for your loved ones or colleagues or family. It might be that you might never experience any of the feelings, but you never know if your son or a daughter or a relative or someone of your colleagues are going through these things. So therefore, it's very important that what we're going to talk about today, that we are fully aware. Then another question, how many % do not seek help from, so if therefore you are aware you have some issues, you don't tell your boss, you don't tell your company, and how many are not also seeking professional help? What do you think? How many percentage? 75%. This is 2020 research. Do also not seek professional help. That means, again, like the example with a broken arm, we will go to the doctor and say, I have a broken arm, help me. But if it's something mental, we still are not ready to take the step to go and seek professional help. So this is, again, we need to break the stigma. I believe, therefore, we are only as sick as our secrets. That's a saying that I included in my book, and I really think it's true, because a lot of the times, if we spell it out, we can get the help right away. This is Andy again. He wrote the forewords to my book, and it's in the book. He wrote a book called Just Ask, about using your network as your greatest help. And Andy is very inspirational if you want to read up more on the topic. And he really talks about how you can turn around your weaknesses into strength. And that's what I've done. This is my life today. It's very different from 5 years ago when I was sitting there on the stool, being overweight, feeling isolated in my loneliness. Today I put health first. Physical health, mental health, emotional health. And that is really, really so important to me. Now we're going to jump into networking. That was a bit of my intro. And I will give all of you a tool again to talk in your tables and really share, what do you do today? If you walk into a meeting, full room of strangers. Let's imagine, picture yourself, one of those Chamber of Commerce events. You walk into a ballroom, it's 500 people there, and what do you do traditionally? What would you do? What would be your habits? What would be your actions? Share on your table how you would do in this environment, and I will just hear back from each table in 1 or 2 minutes. I think so. They can just kind of. Yeah. Okay, let's hear back. What did you say here? What do you traditionally do if you come to a networking event? Anyone want to share?
Sure. So we have got a couple of different views. So one had mentioned they look for a person that's smiley face, easy to approach, strike up a conversation, start up something. Look for big groups and make yourself in there, right, in the way of the groups. And for me, it's big crowds, big groups. You try and move around the room as much as possible. Spend a little bit of time. You can't meet all 500, but try and focus, here and there a little bit.
Okay. Thanks for sharing, and let's go to the table here at the back. What do you do when you come into a big networking event? Let's say 500 people in a room.
Yeah, we couldn't conclude the discussion, but yeah, just to.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So we couldn't conclude the discussion in our group, but just feel free, all of you guys, to chip in. So if in a big crowd, I mean, first of all, be approachable. I mean, leave your hesitation behind in the sense that, oh, how do I approach this person? And be authentic, be yourself when you're talking about yourself. Easiest way is, as in, you can start with your titles if you're in a business event, but that's just a way to get started. Ideally, don't get stuck on that. Talk about you as an individual, and wherever possible, if not comfortable with a bigger group, start with smaller chunks and talk about your interest and see if you can find a common thread to build the conversation on. More importantly, also, it just starts at the event, but take it post the event. Simple thing is, I mean, we get tons of business cards. Easiest way is to come back and at least drop a message and say hi and try and build a connect beyond that. So that's what. Anything else you want to add?
Thank you. Okay.
This table, who wants to share? Okay.
I mean, you two were doing this.
We just shared, I think, quite a lot of us are intro in this table. So I think what we do is basically we under any like a totally stranger environment, we normally like myself, actually I will just approach a 2-3 person that I can connect with and who I'm comfortable to chat with. But I think Sherry and also we share that, because they are the host here, so I think they have a bit conscious effort to get to know more people. But the other way around, if they go for any networking session, it's also like creating a more meaningful connection with a number of people.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for sharing. And the last table?
Anyone want to share?
Andy.
Yeah, normally I get nominated. So I personally do not like crowd, and like the worst place to go is like Japan, Tokyo. But I got it a lot. I go there for meetings. But I still enjoy like meeting up with people like randomly. Like when I go and get a cup of coffee and I will have a small talk, and that's me. I mean, like I don't have any strategy to meet people or network with certain people. It just come very natural and random with me.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, you're one of the lucky ones, and so we're happy for that. Walking into a room full of strangers can be quite scary for many people. Andy Lopata also wrote the book, the gentleman from UK. His book is called Death Came Third. And he said on the first place was walking into a room full of strangers. So it's terrifying for many people. And what many people traditionally do, especially if you're an introvert like me, you will run to the corner and look perhaps for some friends, and you will stick to your friends, and therefore maybe you spend the whole evening just talking to your friends, not making any meaningful connection that are relevant. So that is what, at least for introverts, many introverts, including myself, that's what we tend to do. So I got out very little from that kind of networking. But when it comes to maximizing networking, we'll talk about today how we do it when we do peer groups, and you will experience for yourself at the advisory board later on, which we call the hot seat, where you really will be discussing relevant topics to you, challenges. We will solve the problems and challenges. So hopefully when you leave today, you come out here a bit inspired, having some solutions to some of the challenges you're facing today. And that is how we believe we connect at a deeper level, where it's meaningful. And when we connect at the more meaningful connection, we are touching, on things that we remember. So that's what I believe is the way to maximize networking. So I just want to talk again. What do you think hinder or block people from participating in networking relationships? What stops people from signing up for peer networks and networking evenings and so on? What are the perceptions? Why would people stop? Anyone have any idea?
Yeah, I can share this. Yeah, fine. Yeah, I mean, I can relate to this because we have a lot of things going on in our mind, right? A lot of things, a lot of issues, a lot of problems, right? And there are times that we think that yeah, it's good to literally meet some new faces because that's where the new ideas and some advices come in. But on the other hand, he has so much thing in hand, and you're not sure that he can juggle all these things. And yeah, I mean, like, this is what I think that he know professional.
Yeah, indeed. We have only 24 hours a day, and what I sense many times is that networking or building a relationship is something that is nice to have. Is it something I must have? That's the dilemma, perhaps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I will address this as well. Anyone else have any ideas? What is stopping people?
I think I'm loud enough. So, for me, when I initially started networking, I think it was all about building the business I was running. And I think that was wrong because networking always does not lead to more business. So, and once I saw that happening for a while, I stopped networking because it wasn't leading to. But then I realized the value of networking is not just building business, it is building relationships. And that's where I started networking again. But adding to what he said, I think networking really helps when you talk to people. And especially I feel, like this room, nobody's judging you. When you're friends and, people when you talk about vulnerability, people are, the fear of being judged is higher than
yes.
Here, it would not be so much. It's easier to talk to people and tell about it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And indeed, this is what we're trying to do today. We are trying to create this a safe space where we should not be judged. We should be able to share how we feel about things. And that's the whole important thing. Because if we today can create this as a safe space where we feel that we are not judged, that means that we can bring that knowledge back home. We can create a safe space in our family. We can share how we feel with our loved ones. Then we can bring that into our company and our teams and create that safe space as leaders. Because it's about, when it comes to vulnerability and creating these safe spaces, it starts from the top, it starts from the leaders. We will not have a child, a teenager coming in being vulnerable unless we are vulnerable with them first. I have a son who is 14 years of age, and I share openly with him when I talk about what's going through in my life. I share how I feel, I share failures, I share things, and then when I've shared something that was difficult in my life, I throw back the question, so how are you feeling? And without thinking, he starts replying about his feelings. By having this conversation, I uncovered some things that was going through in his school, things that he was not happy about, including bullying, and he said that the kids from his school was going into one of the shops and they were shoplifting, and he didn't know what to do. He said, if I steal, if I steal to be able to be part of the group, the police maybe take us and I'll be in problem. If I don't do like the other kids, maybe I'll be bullied and pushed out or beaten. So he had this dilemma. And he shared that with me because I was not going to blame him. I was going to listen and ask for support. That incident, we actually called in a third party, a coach who specialized in teenagers, who had a few sessions with him to coach him and ask him and helped him to empower my son, how he can behave and what he can say in this instance to protect himself. Again, this whole thing would never have come up if I would have judged him or screamed at him for telling me what was going on. So that is the kind of safe spaces we need to have everywhere around us. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we are talking also about why people are not joining networks. And this is a traditional one. Networks are full of people trying to sell you something. Who's been to a networking event and the day after you've been emailed or called, they're trying to sell you insurance or recruitment services? Anyone?
Yes.
Yes. So this is the traditional networking. And I want to say that what we are representing in peer networks and peer groups and at EGN and Vistage and so on, we don't allow this selling. That is not what we're here for. We can grow the business by supporting each other, referring and helping each other. We're not here to sell to each other. But that was the mindset of many people. And therefore, the most successful people are staying away from networking events because they think, well, if I come there, people will just sell me services. So we need to therefore be selective about the networks and where we spend the time. I can mention one member of our EGN network in Singapore. This is Samesh there in the middle. He's been part of our network for a few years. And he had worked 17 years for a big multinational as the vice president. And he was very satisfied in his job. They sent him around the world. He was always well looked after. Then one day he was let go. It was a merger acquisition and he was let go. He picked up his phone and I was actually the first phone call. He called me before he even told his wife what had happened. And he couldn't hold back his tears when he called me and said, "Nick, I've been let go." And I listened to him and I said, "Let's meet for a coffee." I went to see him for a coffee. I let him talk, get his emotions out, and I thanked him. I said, "Thank you for the trust. Thank you for the vulnerability. Thank you for sharing what's going on with you." And then I asked, "Now when you know that you're soon going to be out of work, what are you going to do?" He said, "Well, I have my children in international school. I don't know if I can afford to stay in Singapore. Maybe I have to move back to India." And he was just full of fear. And then I asked him a question, "So what possibilities do you have? What are you going to do now?" And he started to think, and I just asked him open question, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And his mind was blocked. He couldn't even come up with suggestions. Then I said, "How about activating your network?" He had been part of EGN for 5 years at the time, 5 years plus. He said, "Yes, let's do that." But then he said, "Wow, but I'm shy. I don't want to tell the network that I lost my job. I sound like a failure. I sound like a loser." And that was his first instinct, that he didn't want the world to know that he was let go. But I gave him some confidence. I say, if you don't tell your network that you let go, you won't find the new opportunities. So he agreed, and he would do that. And what he did after that, he called up a few of his network connections and shared the news with them. He also shared in his peer group what had happened to him, and he was very vulnerable about it. Just after a few days, he had made so many new connections that he had 3-4 different potential job offers, and he started to go for interviews. He had a new job within 2 weeks, an even better job, a better opportunity than before. He managed to stay in his role, and that's all because, one, he had been proactive about building a network, professional relationships around him. Number two, at that juncture, he was vulnerable. So that's just one success story, and we are full of these ones. Donna and I hear them all the time. If we're looking back at the pandemic, the members who went through losing jobs and so on, and part of EGN, all of them got new jobs through the network, everyone helping each other. So in that sense, it's a bit of a life insurance, and I just want to share that. And on the flip side of what we say, networks are there to sell, well, it depends where you go. If you go to the right network, they will look after you. So may I ask you, what percentage of jobs are filled through networking? What do you believe? What would be the number these days?
70 to 80%. 70.
This is by HubSpot. Yeah, 60, 80, 70.
I think especially for higher level, maybe even up to 90%.
Yeah. HubSpot say it's actually 85%. 85% are filled through networking from your relationships. It's who you know, who help you, yeah? Exactly. And therefore, again, if you dare to be vulnerable, if you don't say anything, then no one's going to know and no one will be able to help you. But if you are, then the jobs are all there. Then add to that according to CNBC, 70% of all jobs are not published. The jobs you see on the shop front many times are just there for audits, for compliance and everything else, and maybe there's no real job behind it. But so the real jobs are there through the connections. And when I'm in the peer groups, I'm hearing the number one related challenge our members have in KL, Singapore, and Jakarta is to hire the right people. So there's always jobs available, but they're not necessarily listed. So it's through your connections. And that's what we're talking about today. Then the other issue is, as we talked about, people are not joining networks because they don't want the world to know their problems. And exactly as I said, we are scared of the stigma. And we have to be selective and careful what we share. We don't have to share with the whole world what's going on in our private life. We choose the ones we dare to trust. And hopefully these kind of safe spaces is where we can share it. Another one we discussed also, I'm too busy at work. So I have spoken with thousands and thousands of potential members of EGN in the last 8 years, and my team as well. And the number one rejection, why not joining a peer network, it's I'm too busy at work. I'm too busy at work, so I don't have time. And I want to reflect on this for a moment, and I want to hear some thoughts from you. Would this be one of the issues for you to not join a network or not go out networking if you're too busy? Any thoughts, anyone?
I'm very busy, but I want to be here.
You want to be here? Yeah.
I changed my mind. I mean, I was very busy, but now, I mean, after experiencing EGN, I've opened my mind to actually going to networking events like this. Because at the end of the day, I think all of us want to value our time, how we spend it, what we do. Because, I mean, there's so many ways to look at it, right? But at the same time, if there's a positive environment, if there's positive networking done, I think you can express yourselves and help each other, right? That's the end of the story.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any reflections?
Yes, I'm very busy, and definitely I can find my time to take part in any event I want to. The reason why I'm here because I think these days the younger generations workforce need help.
Yeah.
And with my training in the past, I feel that literally there is some disconnection with the younger generations. So that's why I'm looking for a platform where I could basically potentially get our team member to take part as well. And I'm exploring as well. I'm here, and also this week I'm having some bit slow down. The time off. So I'm here to attend the event.
That's great. We need indeed to go slower to go faster. You know, it's about slowing down. I say like this, when I'm in the moment, I love exercising, I love cycling, running, and swimming and so on. And for me, that's when I'm the CEO. Because when I'm sitting on the desk, on the computer, then I'm working in the business. When I'm at events and so on, like this, or exercising or meditating, then I'm working on the business. So it's the question you have to ask yourself, what is most important for you? Is it to be an administrator in the business, just being busy, or is it being the CEO, working on the business? And then it depends on the priorities, if you're too busy for what part of it. Any reflection?
I was thinking about it, but I'm not sure now. But no, I think using that I'm too busy at work is also like, I'm too busy also to think of myself. So we use work as something that, especially at this level, we're so used to just work as ourselves. Whereas our younger staff are very much more like, I will make time for this because they're all about themselves. So I think this is kind of just this mindset that we have to get rid of. This is important for ourselves this time.
It is indeed self-care as well. And I can, on this topic, you know, I'm having this conversation with our members on a daily basis. And the most senior leaders, the most successful leaders, I can talk about some of the presidents of the biggest multinationals in Asia who's been part of EGN for a few years, of the Singapore network. They will block the peer group meeting slots 1 year in advance in the calendar, and they will fly in from US if they have a meeting and say no. They will even tell the head office when they have a board meeting, they say, I have a peer group meeting, it's in my calendar since a year, I need to be there because it's my time for myself when I reflect. And we need that step back sometimes to be able to come into the business and look at it in a different way. And that's again the talk we had this morning. Dr. Jalan, he said, again, he said, it's about putting the goals that scare you, something that is so big that it's bigger than you can ever achieve. Only then can you take a step back and come back and do things in a completely different way. Because if you can, he says, if you can picture the goals, then it's not big enough. If you can see it, if you think you can achieve it, then it's not going to challenge you. You're not going to grow. So you need to put the goals that are so crazy big and out there, and then to achieve them, it's a different path. And that's what we can do by being in a network. What we have seen is that bank can learn from an FMCG. We talked this morning about Grab and those kind of companies, and they can learn from another industry. So it's about cross-learnings across industries, picking up new vibes, new ideas. So indeed, I'm being too busy at work, that means, yeah, perhaps as an administrator. And actually Forbes, the Forbes network, found that 92% of the members there who are very senior, they say that networking saved them time. 92% of them said it's saved them time. Let me share with you an example. I was in a peer group meeting about 5 years ago, and a lady stood up and she shared in what we're going to cover today. We're going to do a simulation of an advisory board. She stood up and she's a CFO for one of the biggest telecoms in the world, and it was her chance to show, showcase a challenge she had in the work. She showed her organization chart and she said, we are working with a CRM system and the same organization chart in 220 countries. It's working in all of them. It doesn't work in India. He said, the people are fighting, it's not working, they not managed to do it. They now suggest we're going to change to another CRM system and change the structure for one market. And she was challenged by her boss by saying, you go to India and you solve this or fix it, otherwise we'll exit the market. And that was basically, that would mean the end of her job and end of her career. She had been trying everything. She had called consultants, everyone had tried to solve it, no one can solve it. At this time, she dared to be vulnerable with the network. She told her peer group about what was going on. And in the room was other people who worked in India. In fact, there was one who was the senior vice president for McDonald's. And there was one of the co-founders of Goodyear, India, in the meeting. After about 45 minutes, they have solved the problem by asking clarifying questions, giving the feedback, redraw it, and giving her some hands-on tips and tricks how she could tweak it. And she went over to India and solved it. When the next peer group meeting 2 months later, she shared with everyone this success. So sometimes we don't have to take radical big decisions if we are vulnerable and open and share and getting some feedback. So that was one sample of someone who's opened up. And about the time, again, I did a calculation. In a network like EGN, for example, we meet 6 times a year for 4 hours. So if you add those hours up, that's 24 hours a year, and depending on how many hours you work, but it's roughly 1% of your yearly working time. So you can still be and some other networks like Vistas, you spend more hours, but it's still only a few percentage of your working time you're going to spend being in a peer group with others, sharing your challenges. And the way I like to think about it, it's almost like you have your management team inside your business. You have perhaps your management team of 8-10 staff, and you work closely with them, but the peer group will become like your external management team. That's where you have your trust. This is like your board of personal advisors who know your business, you're there, you dare to be vulnerable, and they will help you. It's like an external management team or an advisory board. So that's one more explanation about this. So then how do you get most out of your network? I'm just going to share a couple of tips and tricks how to get the most out of it. And the first one is, I want you to think about the finances. If you're saving money for a pension, life insurance, perhaps you're putting aside some money with an auto debit every month, some money goes there to the future. You're also upskilling yourself. You do MBAs or courses, you're upskilling yourself to have value. That's all fine. That's the 2 pieces, perhaps, towards a future great life, where you can be a consultant, you can sit on as an advisor, you can be on boards. You might picture yourself sitting in Penang or Bali, semi-retired, and you have all these clients you can be on virtual calls with, and you're doing good business, you have a good life. That's what many senior executives want to do. At least if I'm talking to the ones in Singapore, they see themselves in the future, not 100% retiring, but having one foot in the business and doing something. Well, you have all those pieces, but if you don't have a professional network, then who is going to buy your services? Then you will have to stay in a job forever. So that's a transition here also that I've seen have worked for many. So we also have that transition. We have many meetings and events where we are discussing that, how to have that transition. So that's, in that sense, I think networking or network is your net worth. And that is something that I really believe in. So some more tips and tricks here, how to get the most of it. Well, attend in person like you do today. Prioritize it, be there in person. Most of the pandemic is over. I know we had to go virtual for a while, but now we can be in person, and the ones who put the time aside who come are the ones getting the edge. And prepare for sessions. What do I mean with that? Well, the members that get the most out of networking is the people who ask for the attendance list before, perhaps the LinkedIn profile, go in and check them out. Who are the people out there? Perhaps prepare a few questions. See, is there someone from the fintech industry? Is there someone from my industry I want to meet? You can even then on the day of the event, go up to the front desk and say, hey, I saw that this and this person will attend today. Can you link me up or introduce me later? Of course, those introductions will be happening then. So that's some small little tips. And then listen for what others need. You might have heard from BNI, the biggest networking company. It's a giver's gain, and I believe in that. It's not about what you can get out of it. It's always what can you put in, how can you be of service to others. Yeah, and give freely of your expertise. In EGN, we have an app called Members Universe, and their members can ask in real time, ask the network. Who have used ChatGPT in here? Yeah, so ChatGPT is very powerful. When you brief it clearly, it comes out with some great work. Imagine being a network with 900 senior leaders in real time having the app where you can ask them questions, everyone helping you. So I can just share a few of the recent questions that come in on the app. Was someone in Singapore looking in merger acquisitions, asking some questions. Hey, my boss have asked me to do a merger acquisition for this and this industry. Who has experience? Boom, within 1 hour, 3 members will have a reply saying, call me on this number, happy to meet you for a coffee, let's have a lunch, I can share my experience. Someone else was asking, what about transfer pricing between Kuala Lumpur and Vietnam, for example? My business want to trade with Vietnam, who can share something? Boom, ask the network will reply. So in that sense, you can share your expertise also in real time in a network. And share authentically. We talked about authenticity a lot today. And that is what we believe, being honest, being yourself. So now we're going to lead into a coffee break. And during the coffee break, I want you just to spend some time to now think about what we discussed today. When you talk to each other, we try to have a bit more deeper conversation, more honest conversation, not just what football team you like and the shallow conversations that we're used to, but try to be yourself and go a little bit deeper. Try to share, think about, is there some expertise that perhaps you can help with someone? Perhaps there's a challenge on your mind, something that you need to solve. Maybe expose yourself a little bit during the coffee break and say, I'm having a challenge with this, and see if you have some luck. Is there someone there out there when you have a coffee break now who can help you? And then I want to hear back after the coffee break. And once we've done that, we're going to jump into the advisory board, which is really what we're here for today, and which is really the EGN peer network concept.
I will hand over back to you. Nick, over to you.
Thank you. All right, so great to hear that you had a good coffee break and about having, vulnerable conversations. Indeed, it doesn't have to be a numbers game. And Raj and I connected outside and we realized that we worked for the same company before International SOS. When he clicked on my LinkedIn profile, we realized we have 74 connections in common. And as we start to go through them, we could share a lot of stories about the people that we worked with together, both of us. So it's a small world, but that's why, as soon as you have that little bit of a connection, you feel like you've known each other forever. We can share the war stories and everything together. So anyone have anything they want to share from any of the conversations? Did you uncover anything meaningful conversations you had on this table during the coffee break?
Oh yeah, I met a gentleman there that actually works with my neighbor.
There you go. So Raj, you might...
I'm just making the connections all here today,
That's great, work with neighbor. Anyone else have something to share from your connections?
Yeah, I'm impressed with these two ladies. They are still students, but they already start working in business, doing business.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we spoke this morning also about mentoring, and we spoke about reverse mentoring, which is becoming a big trend. The biggest leaders of the world these days, they might be mentoring younger students, but the students are mentoring their generation because it's a different mindset. And if we get old, then we are out of this game. We need to refresh ourselves. So thanks for coming.
I get that almost every day at home from my two girls.
Anyone over here have something to share from your coffee break? Any nice new connections? Any conversations?
I think I could at least go deeper into conversation, but yes, good conversations.
Good. What about on this table? Did you have any meaningful conversations you want to share something about?
Yeah, so I mean, very interestingly, so I'm also building a community called Girls in Tech, and she works with the tech organization, so we could figure out potential opportunities to collaborate. And I think I found a connection for life.
Oh, wow. Congrats. Wonderful. Derek?
I'm actually planning to do a marketplace for the same group of people, girls, women, and underserved or orphanage or old folks. So this is for the local social marketplace plus a bit of charity, and maybe we can talk more.
Oh, great. Awesome. Great. And isn't this wonderful when we make connection? As soon as one person says something, someone else can add on it, then you have a third connection. And I want to say that apart from being part of peer networks and so on, some of the best connections I ever made has been through charities and fundraising activities. Whenever you show up there, you find people with a golden heart who's there to give back to the community. And most of them are very successful in business as well. They are there in EGN in Singapore. We're part of Junior Achievement, JA, which is basically a foundation that are helping students. And what I do and the EGN members do, we come out in the schools, we talk about different topics, but from a practical point of view. It can be online or coming out in the school. And JA even won the Nobel Prize in that space last year. So that's great to hear that you're also doing that, Derek, in the foundation. Good luck with that. And before we jump into the advisory board, a reflection then on safe spaces. Where are we so far? Andy Lopata, who again wrote the forewords for my book, he talked about safe spaces as a professional network and a personal network. And what I believe and I agree with him is that we need to develop both in a proactive manner, because it's very difficult to do it reactively. We need to build these relationships in good times, so when we are facing challenges, a phone call is just very easy, and naturally we will help each other. So when we talk about personal networks, it can be everything from us men being a part of a men's group, perhaps women part of a women network where they can be themselves. But men especially, because women tend to, what I found out when I wrote my book, women tend to be a little bit more open and honest and have one or two friends who they are a little bit more honest with than us men. If I'm looking back at myself, I had great friends all my life. We went to play golf, we will watch sport on TV, we had a laugh together. Perhaps I had a very stressful day at work and I wanted to see my friends. We had a great time together, but I didn't share what was on my mind. Instead, I had a good time with them, but the next day when I went back to work, the same problems were there. I just didn't share what was on my mind. But when I interview women and I talk to women, they say that they would call up their friend and they will talk a little bit about the issues, and their friend will give them some support. So for us men, we need to be very aware about this and build up to try to be a bit more open and honest with a couple of our friends. And there's groups for that. And for personal support, there are so many coaches, life coaches, mentors. We should all have mentors and coaches. Perhaps inside your company you will be given a coach or a mentor or a sponsor, someone to look after you. But I'm a big believer of getting this externally as well. I'm personally supporting people as a sponsor, mentor, or coach, whatever you want to call it, to people who are younger, who need support, and that gives me a lot. And I can encourage all of you, if you don't have that, reach out for someone, perhaps who you look up to, and ask them, are they able to jump on, even if it's just a 1 hour Zoom call, you can pick the brain, and they will be happy to do it, most of them, even if they are busy. So that's the safe spaces. We have these people who we can call, when we one day, then later on, it's not feeling great, we can call them and say, hey, we spoke last year, I'm going through some challenges now, do you have half an hour of your time for me? Most of us will give that time. And that is, I think, is a gift, when we can give that time for each other to be there. These are the safe spaces we are talking about.
Yeah.
Yes?
I just want to share something, since you mentioned about BNI. I had a relatively not very nice experience many years ago. This is before COVID. And so yes, I was thrown into this big crowd and introduced myself to them. And immediately, it's like they don't ask you for a lot of stuff. They just ask you where you're from and all that. And they ask you, hey, do you think you can help me out with this? Do you know this company? Do you know how I can get this contact? Do you know how I can get that? You know, so it's like you start helping them, and that's it. And they just leave you. You know, they don't come back. Do you need anything from me, or how can I help you? You know, with your contacts or whatever it is. So so when you talk about authenticity, these days, network organizations or any platforms just do not have that. You know, it's my honest opinion and what I can see. That's what's happening here in this day and world, and it's quite sad. And like what you said about reaching out to your peers when you need a place and space. Yes, it is very important, because I've seen entrepreneurs who really went bankrupt and they went back to their friends for help, asking them for money. But then no one wants to help. No one wants to help. And that guy was really beaten. And somehow or other, in God's grace, after a couple of years, he got back on his foot and he managed to get the funding he needed and started his business. And he's doing well right now, thankfully. But at that time when he needed help, no one was there. So, you know.
Thanks for sharing that. And I also have a story of an executive in the book who shared a similar story. Once he was very successful, he had a car, he had a driver, all the friends were there. But when his business went bankrupt, most of the people were gone. And that's so common, but the ones who stay, there will be hopefully a few. And we only need perhaps a few close friends. And hopefully they are there. We know who we should look after later on. But I agree, many relationships are very much shallow. And it's about trying to go deeper and see who can handle that. And that's what we're doing today. We're talking about this, trying to be more authentic and not being so much of a numbers game, but having rather quality relationship and quality conversation. So thanks for sharing that. Now we're going to go a little bit closer towards setting us up towards what is coming, the advisory board. Let me just explain first what it's about. So the advisory board, or peer networks might call it the hot seat. You might have heard the different terms for it. but it's basically a big part of what we do at Peer Networks. And I can share a few stories. I shared one before of the CFO, the lady who was talking about her organization chart in India. She had some challenges. Another entrepreneur, we can talk about an entrepreneur. She was in the advisory board in Singapore recently. She is the owner of a company that do public relations services, media services. She built it up from scratch up to a turnover of a few $1 million. And she's very pleased about the business. What she did in one of the advisory boards was she stood up and she presented the exit plan. She presented her exit plan from the business because she wanted to see herself in a few years cashing in on the business. And she said, this is what I'm expecting for it, and so on. And she had already at this stage also a potential buyer. Someone had given her an offer and she wasn't sure if this was the right value, if she should sell it or what should she do. So she had a dilemma. So she presented this to the group. The group then would ask her clarifying questions. They will ask her to clarify. They would then go away in working groups and come back and present suggestions to her. What happened then after 45 minutes here is that she took all that feedback away and she was able to go back to the potential buyer and ask for $1 million more. So 45 minutes of people giving her feedback, she could ask for $1 million more. So that's what it's about. By just daring, raise your hand, share what's on your mind. And there's not much stigma in presenting your exit plan for your business or your strategy for your business and get some help on that. There can be many dilemmas. There can be things that you have big decisions potentially for yourself. There can be your expansion plan. Should you go to this market or this market? Well, you can pay a consultant to give you the plans, or you can ask your group, what do you think? What should I do? And by just articulating and spelling out, you might already get some clarity. I was also in one other peer group meeting where there was one senior executive in Singapore, a Singaporean gentleman who worked the last 20 years in the same company. And he's coming to the end of his career, and he had also a dilemma. He'd been given a job offer from a competitor. And he said, I don't know what I should do here. One part of me want to stay in the same company to the end of my career. I really love this company, and I've done everything I can here. I want to be loyal to them. That's part of me. The other side of me want to try something new before I end my career. What should I do? And this was a dilemma he had not even shared with his wife. But that was the level of trust he had in the group, that they would not go out and tell the world about his dilemma. And in fact, when he articulated it, he started to cry, because that's how big the dilemma was inside him. But just the fact that he could talk it out and then get his peers to give him feedback was a big relief for him. It was a big relief for him. Later on, by the way, he took the chance. He moved across to try to work with another company. That means at least he had a chance one more time to do something meaningful. And that came out of a peer group meeting. So I could go on all day sharing about what I heard in these peer group meetings, but I just wanted to set the scene so that you can open your mind to experience what we're going to go through. And hopefully you can have some of these experiences today. Hopefully you can go away with $1 million more for your business also. So the first part now is just for yourself. Take a pen and paper. If you don't have a pen and paper, just raise your hand and we will come and give it to you. And just for a few minutes, write down what's your number one work-related challenge right now. Just think, and you can write down 2 or 3 if you like, and then you can, after that, just circle what's your number 1 or 2 or 3 work-related challenge. So we give you a few minutes to do this. So think about the challenge that is so great and something very big. And if you will solve this, your life will become much easier. We get you a promotion or that $1 million more. You find something? You find some challenge? Have we all written down something? If you wrote a few, you can just circle which is the number one. And then, now comes the vulnerability part here. Share your challenge on the table. So we're going to give you 20 minutes per table, and you just take turns. You can go one by one and just explain about your challenge to everyone. sleep early, otherwise I don't run. Okay, we're gonna come back. I want to hear back from all of you how it went. So thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. I know it's hard to break now because I'm sure you have some great conversation. Before we jump to the next stage, I just want to hear from each table. Anyone have any reflections on the thoughts or just the feelings around sharing the challenge? Was it someone who had any breakthrough or feelings about how was it to share?
Thanks. Yeah, so I did raise a challenge I'm facing at work right now, which is leading a team through a time of change, whether it's change in the leadership and also due to the evolving business landscape, there are of course also new issues that have cropped up as well. And very fortunately, without going into details of exactly what those issues are, I was very fortunate to have a HR specialist on the table who actually gave me very, very pragmatic advice on what I can do. In fact, this sheet here is all advice from her, so it's amazing. And she actually gave very, very professional and practical advice that I got just like a wow moment, just by speaking to her. I'm glad it helps. Thank you, and I didn't have to pay her for it. But
Not yet. Excellent. Was it? That's very good. Thank you so much for sharing. What about on this table? Was someone have any feelings, thoughts, or it doesn't have to be a conclusion to anything? What did you say?
Consensus was I'm very old.
Oh. Were any feelings or thoughts around sharing?
We had two very interesting ones. It's around hiring and firing.
Hiring.
Well, I think on our table it's two different areas. One is about not firing, but how do you help team members or who hit their level? How do you help them move on or move into different areas? Or in some cases, in hiring, how do you let go of the thing where if you hire the wrong person, you feel very ultimately responsible, or you feel the need to having to redo it all over again if they make a mistake, or it's similar to you where companies are going through changes and you've had your teams or restructuring where you're left with keeping the morale up of a team or a company who don't necessarily trust your company right now. So it's that situation.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for being vulnerable on table. What about over here? Did you have any thoughts or reflections, anyone?
I think that being a young leader, especially, I have discussed this before. First of all, that when we want to give our opinion, so we also have a senior. When you go for work, right? You know there's seniority and there's like a person who just entered the workforce. And the issue arises because I'm so young. But at the same time, I feel the issue is that some people who are more older or more experienced than these young people, and they feel that these young people don't have the impact, which means they do not have a chance to give them an opportunity to talk or give their insights. Right? I think that's also a challenge, where I think even as you are older or experienced, maybe you can share the younger people or young leaders, like your experience itself. But the thing is here, sometimes young people might not be as experienced as you, but they can also share some skills that both of you can learn. So it goes both ways. As we humans continue learning, and learning always, it never stops. I think that's something my challenges is. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. And any applause? Yes. Any thoughts of feelings or sharings here on this table?
Sure. No, we have a lot of good real life situations. Some very good suggestions. I think we solved half the problems that you're facing here with suggestions. Good new ways to look at things, if you may, right? Different perspectives. Just don't ask Derek too much what to do. He despises everyone. No, just kidding. I mean, realistic. He's got a realistic view of things, right? May not be agreeable to how everyone, but it is a real way of looking at things. So that's why we share a lot of things, and I think Kumara also has got a good suggestion from somebody. So various things. Each situation was different, which was good. So you had 7 situations to troubleshoot on.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing, everyone. And now, just for the next stage, if I can just ask you also in each group now, we have some flip charts there, and we're going to give a paper extra to that table. If now you had all different ones, but if you can think there may be some commonalities between the challenges. So if we can just come up for each group, what was the common challenge? What was the biggest common challenge for you? I'll give you a few examples. One could be talent retention, recruitment, it can be compliance, inflation. What is the commonality in your table if you have to agree on one thing? What's the biggest challenge for your business right now? What you are facing together? Just give me a few minutes and you can write it on the flip charts. You can write the top 3 for each group, is okay. 3. Okay, how are we doing? I see 3 groups being ready, I think. Let's wrap up and then we're gonna hear back. There's one group that is stuck down there. There's one group which is stuck. Yes, I'm trying to, but one group is stuck. Okay, great. So let's just hear back very briefly, quickly from one person from each group. What were the key topics, the common challenges that you had on this group?
The common challenges we have is related to the talent, the hiring, retaining, or firing. And then the second one will be people, how we manage the people in the company for performance or for promotions or something related to that. And the third one is relationship, like building the relationship, including like how to get to know to our target contact. How do we to reach the people that we want to know to make things work further, like new business, new lead and all that. Or internally, like building relationship with my counterpart, my peers, so that we can work together to achieve the KPI together, to move the company working in the better directions and all that. So build and maintain.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And how did it feel for the rest of the group members when you're discussing these challenges and you all see that, oh, it's not only me who have problems with hiring. There's not only me who have problem retaining your staff. What I hear is that then we get that sympathy as human beings. When we hear someone else is going through similar challenges, we tend to feel better about ourselves. That's what I found, because if we feel we are the only one in the whole world going through the channels, we feel pity me, poor me, you know, why am I going through this? But here now you start to see, okay, we are going through this. We can go through this together. I'm not alone. That is what we are uncovering here. So thank you for sharing that. And let's see here the next group. What were the common challenges here? Anyone just from the group can share?
All right, thank you. So as we had our discussion just now, so we came up with these 3 common challenges. So the first would be the talent retention, of course. When you're having a business, there is a process of hiring, obviously. And like all the companies out there, definitely this is just a common thing. Hiring, retention, just normal. Okay, second thing, generation gap between leaders. Okay, this is something important because in most of the business out there, don't say that you're only working with one particular age group. No. So it means that sometimes you'll be working with some people might be more than 40, some people are lesser than 30. So like there's a generation gap. Sometimes their opinion just doesn't, align. So as I feel like in a company, especially in the business aspect, when you're working with different type of like generation gap, right? So I feel like it's also important to find a common ground. I know that sometimes their ideology is going to be different, but somehow as you're working together, especially in team, especially you are working in a group. So I feel like it's really important to find a common ground where everyone can discuss and not scared of being judged. So that's the second thing, generation gap between this. And even as I've discussed with Mr. Mang and also Mr. Devi, they're also trying to find a way on how they can actually talk to younger generation, to build and also to get a community and also working environment which is much positive and not having this kind of peer pressure. So that's the second thing. Third thing is lack of competitive products. Okay, as what Mr. David has mentioned just now, as you're working in like a razor company, sometimes there's a lot of companies out there. It doesn't mean that there's one company will be doing only one particular service and the other will be doing other service. No. I mean, let's say like for Microsoft and also like some other products, there's like, even like clinics, there doesn't have to be one clinic. It can be a lot of clinic out there, right? So competitive products. So this is one thing. Sometimes you have the products, the quality is there, but is it competitive enough? Because everyone will come up with the new things as, the business world just goes on and on. So these are the 3 common challenges that our discussion, just from our discussion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay. What about here? Any common challenges?
Okay. So what we talked about is exactly the same thing what the other two groups talked about. This is more on the people side, hiring as well as retention, getting the right skill set into the organization. And once you've gotten them in, what do you do to kind of retain them and ensure that they are productive? Second part is, of course, the big thing that emerged as a common challenge was also leading these teams through times of change, which is, I guess, in today's pace of the business is happening every single day. Change from the business perspective, change from the churn in the organization, change from restructuring perspective. So that's the priority one that came out to be the common challenge. Second is on the financial side of it. Again, and there we've clubbed in a few things which talks about scaling the business, because every day sometimes priorities are getting changed, and like today what's the focus was not the focus, for example, a week ago, and things like those. So how in those difficult situations you help scale the businesses, how do you then monetize it, and also talking about today, for example, most of us are looking at budgets and optimizing cost. So during that time, especially going back to the first challenge, how do you do retention?
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from the last group. Any common challenges?
Yeah, first one is.
Oh.
Apparently, the common theme would be the on HR, so talent management, retention, and also hiring. Whereby I think there's a lot of discussion on the metrics of how you hire people, as well as how I think there's one topic that was touched on laying off people as well. So there was also a discussion there. Two others are not so critical, but I think it was discussed. So one of it is the deliverables versus expectations. So that's in terms of stakeholder management. And third one is authentic leadership, and then I think that kind of like ties back to the first one, where you have to be yourself and not fudge certain things when you deal with your team members.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for reporting back. So I see the common theme here is indeed talent is number one for all the groups, right? Talent is number one. Well, I can say that in the EGN world, we have 870 peer groups in the world, and the number one discussed topic is talent. So that goes for, it doesn't matter if it's Jakarta, Singapore, KL, or Europe, it's always talent. So that's what the challenges are. So now we're going to come into the advisory board. So I want to ask if there's someone who who feel I really want to go up here and explain about my challenge to get the whole feedback from everyone up here. Is there someone who already can volunteer right away? Raise your hand if you want to share your challenge with the group.
I can.
Okay, fantastic. Come on up here. So we're going to give you a few minutes to explain about your challenge. And then what we're going to do is, rather than jumping to immediately solutions mode, we're going to have a clarifying moment. So after I have explained about his challenge, don't jump into suggestion, conclusion. Instead, clarify to make sure we understand it, because we want to make sure that everything is clear about the challenge he's facing. And then you will discuss on your table for a few minutes and come up with some feedback and suggestion. And only last will we give it back to him. So Ajay, thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, just talk without the mic.
Yes, you can.
Okay, just a bit of brief background. I set up a company. I run that company. Summit Next is the company, and I've had some people that have been working with me sort of since day one of the company. And as we are growing and reaching a point, I feel there are some people who've kind of maxed out. I feel maybe. Not sure if they have in it them to keep scaling as the company grows. I don't want to let them go or put them into a position where they don't feel good about, because they have had aspirations of growing with the company. So how do I, while training feedback is something that we've tried, how do we make sure that they don't feel left out, we don't have to, let go of them or, keep them within the company, still contributing to the growth of the company. That's the challenge that I'm dealing with right now.
Thank you. Any questions, just to clarify?
How do you define it messed up?
In terms of, I would say critical thinking. In terms of street smart thinking, that's what I feel right now. They're not able to think beyond a certain point.
What industry?
We are a BPO company, a call center company.
Sorry, can you clarify what company?
A call center company.
Call center
a BPO
company. And how many employees?
We have about 100 employees now.
Yeah, and how long since you started the business? Since day one, when they were with you, those?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Can I ask you, why is there a need for the people, for your employees to be street smart in this business?
I think every business needs smarter people because if the business is growing, you have to. I cannot be making all the decisions.
At which level?
These are like senior manager kind of level people. The head of department.
Yeah. So I have a question. And I just want to make sure I heard you right. You mentioned that you did not want to let them go.
I do not want to.
Why?
I think they've been loyal to the company. They've supported the company during the growth process, and there are certain things they are expecting in terms of rewards as the company grows.
Okay.
They've been loyal. I want to be loyal to them.
Anyone else have some clarifying question? We want to make sure it's crystal clear so you understand it.
So if you don't want to let them go, and so does it hurt you if you keep them then? Can they do a different role? Can you still report them?
So that's an option to put them into a separate role, but I feel they will feel that the growth that they were expecting with the company growing, their career is stalled now. They cannot go beyond that.
So to understand your dilemma is that you want them to grow to the next level.
Yes, I would ideally want them to grow to the next level.
But you need to figure out how do you create a scaffolding or a structured way to develop your skill set, or is it that you feel they won't make it and you're in a dilemma as to what to do?
No, I am still hopeful they can make it, but the more I am in that process, I feel maybe they will not make it.
Any more clarifying questions?
Is it because of their capacity to learn, or because of their attitude they don't want to learn?
No, I don't think it is the capacity to learn or the attitude to learn. It is the critical thinking. That part is missing. They're hardworking. They're loyal. They have great attitude. But it's you need the smart thinking. When you grow beyond a point.
So what's your belief? You believe that this skill cannot be taught, or is the born with it?
It's a difficult skill to learn.
I think street smart is all about your experiences throughout life.
Exactly.
I
I agree.
It's not like something that's overnight or when you're on your teens or in your 30s. It's built over years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
By the way, how many of them fall into this category?
Maybe 2 of them.
Okay.
And can the business still use them in their current capacity?
Absolutely, some capacity they can still be used.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not in their head of department capacities anymore, but some capacity.
Okay.
And you have grown in 2.5 years to 100 staff, was that correct?
Yes.
And what's your growth projection plans beyond this, let's say for next year?
I would say by another 2 years, maybe 500 people. At least.
Okay. Any more clarifying questions? So now we're going to take a few minutes, 5 minutes. I think 10 minutes is enough. 10 minutes on each table to please discuss and come up with some suggestions or solutions, and then we're going to hear back from each table in 10 minutes from now.
And Ajay, feel free to mingle around.
Yes.
All yours.
Okay, let's start to hear back from the groups to see what suggestions we have for Ajay. I suggest that you take a pen and paper and be ready.
Or I'll use my phone.
Yeah, this is the important part, right, to capture. So Ajay will write notes on his phone and see what comes back. So let's say here from group by group, do you have any suggestions or feedback for Ajay? What should we can start over here? Any feedback or suggestions? What should Ajay do with the 2 employees, right? Who's been with him from the beginning? A bit of a dilemma. What should he do?
We recommend he probably look into like getting a mentor for the HOD, third party mentor, coach.
Getting a mentor for these 2 employees?
Yeah.
So getting a coach or mentor for both of them?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Sure, let me add on.
Sorry?
Let me add it.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to actually ask Ajay on this question, alright? So because there's 2 staff there, but we only managed to discuss staff A, pretty simple. So I say, what is the strength of this staff A that Ajay likes him so much? So he explains that he's very good in terms of planning, alright? So we actually use this glass as an example. So the steps to produce a glass is superb in that. But what Ajay is expecting is, besides coming up with a glass, right? He wants the glass to be more cost effective, maybe more color rather than just red. But this guy staff A just cannot produce. But he knows how to do it. So that's why, correct? That's your pain point.
Broadly, yeah.
Yeah. So I was suggesting that, okay, since you have given all the chance and probably sending for the necessary training, assuming, okay, and still the guy only can produce the red color glass. So why don't get a consultant, just a David example, alright? That's a more graphic guy. Come in, work with staff A. So David will produce the design part of the advice, and then go and work with staff A that has all the process, all the experience in that. That's where they can come up with a final product B that has rainbow color rather than just red. So that's what was my suggestion to AJ to consider that.
So coach slash
Not so much coach, probably get another team member that has the the expertise in probably like more the designing part of it. Then work with this staff A, use his strength, okay, and then come up with a new product that you desire. Right.
I mean, it's not about a product, it's every day.
I'm just using it as product for discussion. But instead of just keep hopping on, the staff A that you will change one day, I think reality, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from this group? That's it? Okay.
Coach can be a beautified name for manager.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you so much from this group. All right, let's see. Do we have any feedback or suggestion here?
No, I think it is part of our group, so we discussed quite a bit. And again, we haven't had a chance to regroup after that. But personally, I think long-term, maybe there are 2 things. Yeah, one is you bite the bullet and deliver the hard message and cut it. Yeah, that's first. Which is shortest. If you're so sure, I think long-term it's not good for them also to stick around and don't get mutually it's not beneficial. Then it will not happen. Second option is, I think you moderate your expectations. Yeah, being street smart. I come from India. I know what you mean, right? So, but I think what you need to expect them is to understand the business. So they need to think like you. So you need to probably make them some sort of owner. Invest more in them, so that you give them a chance to think like you, and expect that they understand your business. They cannot be your photocopies. They cannot run a 100-people company. They may not. Otherwise, they won't work for you, right? So if you build a 100-people company in 2 years, you can't expect that from them. Yeah. But what you can expect is them to think like you as an owner of the business, and maybe you invest more in them. Yeah, and have some patience and moderate your expectations. Long term, one of these 2 will work. Everything else, I'm sure you've tried because, you know your business. If you've come to a conclusion, then I think you have to have more conviction
in your views? It's either A or B. A is, deliver the hard message, get on with it. They will get on with it. They will find something. They've been with you 2 years. Before that, they were doing something else. Or B is just invest more, have more patience, moderate your expectations, and give them coaching and invest. Not coaching, but invest equity. So they become like home. So they know that if I run this as a business rather than my task, then business is about growth, business is about profits. They will think like that, maybe. Yeah?
Okay.
Now that's it. I spoke too much.
No, that's good. Thank you. And what about from this table? I saw a good discussion going on.
Okay. So, see, I understand having worked in BPO and especially in the HR space, so I totally understand where you're coming from. So I absolutely empathize with you first. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit from my experience, what has helped in similar situations, what you're facing right now. See, options at this stage is, these two, of course, have been with you and they've been loyal, and I understand where your sentiment also is coming from. But option is, either they stay in the organization despite whatever lack in the skill set or the ability that they have, or they exit. So first thing first, I'm so sorry, and I'm very mindful while I'm making this comment. I think, a little bit of reflection on your end also would help, because if something has reached its potential and is not helping your business to grow further, I think you as a leader or a business developer, who's owning that business, also sometimes is required to take the hard decision. But I understand, it's not easy being there, and especially for the people you're so close to. So maybe there are a lot of coaches and there are a lot of mentors. Somebody who can give an external piece of advice, which is neutral, which is fair, and can work with you through the process, which is not an easy process. So somebody who can hold your hand and walk through the process. So it's a little bit easier for you to get through that. That's one. But if you really sincerely believe, because I heard you say a few times, you really want their best interest and you really want them to grow. So which means, there's a lot of investment, there's a lot of conscious effort that needs to be put in to help them scale. So a few ideas on that, maybe. If you have other senior managers or who are their peers, could be shadowing them and see if they can learn how they're doing what they're doing. And then they can replicate or learn some of those skills and start doing it on their job. That could be one. Fair reward system, maybe I'll let Emily talk about it a little more, because she has some fantastic ideas around that. And I think, so when we talk about critical thinking, I'm so sorry, it's kind of, from business perspective for me, it's a little bit abstract. I'll explain why it's abstract, right?
I agree.
Yeah, so it's a little bit abstract. So basically, despite what we are calling it right now, lack of critical thinking skills, your objective for them is to drive business and to scale it up, right? So which means maybe try breaking it down into smaller, say in 3 months, this is your vision, from 100 people you want to grow to 150, or in a span of a year more, you want to double your workforce or double your revenues or stuff like that. Then leave it to them to say how do they see this growth coming in. It'll do two things. One, either they're able to deliver on the expectations that you may have, or also to evaluate if there's a gap between you setting the expectations and their understanding of the expectations, right? Second thing that would happen is, you would also have the data and the facts which will make your decision easier, whether to continue investing or to kind of put a stop and see what's best for them as well as for your organization.
Yeah.
So these are some ideas on this. Yeah. I think, that's, I was just going through the pointers that you
Great.
and maybe I'll let Emily add on the fair reward system and advise me. Please, go ahead.
Okay, Emily, anything to add?
Reward system that you talked about. Sorry, that's all from me, maybe.
Yeah, just to add on a little bit on the business outcomes that you really hope to drive. I think people, relate better and can have something to work towards to if they understand what exactly it is that they're supposed to deliver, right? So whether it's in, well, it has to be quantifiable, right? Is it a business target? Is it the number of team that they have to scale to? Is it in reduction in cost, right? Or some other optimization that you require in your business. I think people need, so the visualization of what it is, right? So what is that incremental outcome that you're expecting from them? So setting that expectation right is, I think, is foundational to everything. Yeah. So I think someone spoke about expectation versus deliverables, right? Yeah. So I think that it really relates to that same point over there. And if you are looking for someone to help you through these people problems, I think Shivani is a great person. I think she has extensive experience across
I didn't pay for this, by the way. I didn't pay for this. I said cash, not in cash.
I mean, I personally benefited from her advice just from sitting next to her. So please go and talk to her and get more advice.
Okay, well, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, the last group to hear from. Do you have any feedback, suggestions?
AJ, I have exact same challenge like you. Exactly. I tell you what I do. Maybe you can have some inspiration. First thing I do is to draw a line. Okay? This person that I have, we take the company management buyout together. We are like brothers, we fight together. We were colleagues. We are the senior manager of the company together. We think this is a good people. Three of us together, we take over the company and we start grow the company. And we are overnight directors. We are overnight CEO and C-level people. As soon as we do that, and I find that these people that I look up to actually has the limitation. That's what you say, critical thinking. We spent 18 months, okay, trying every way to help this guy to have the same mindset like us. But we fail. And then we say, okay, it's time for us to draw a line. That's it, no more. I know him for many years, and then to do this is like I studying myself. Okay, but I have to do this for the company group. We are shareholders. We have equal share. Let's say 100. And then we promise to each other, say that we want everyone to have 100,000 share to the company, but actual fact we only for out 100 ringgit. All right. So I promise to him, I will fill up the remaining for you to reach 100,000 that we pledge our work together that day. And this is it. That's it. That's the limit the company will do for you. Thereafter, there is a cap. So this is also the cap. Thereafter, in the future, if the company grow, the company share become bigger. One day we become 500,000 and 5,000. I'm so sorry to you. You will stay. To the day, I promise to you, but not now. There's a line I first draw to him. All right. Why we have to do this? Because in the past 18 months we have countless of quarrel, countless of fight because of we think you're not we think someone is not incompetent. For sure, we will fight back. How come now you promised this to me? Now we are not fulfilling. You betray me. Why? Okay, big fight. So this is we draw the line, and he has to take. If he don't take this one, pack and go, and he got 0. I'm stupid enough to do this, but this is what I reward him to my sentiment, to my reward him to start the company together, and that's it. Hard decision and stupid decision that I do. All right. On the other part, now he is a director. or CCO or VP, whatever title that he carry, actually is meaningless because he cannot carry. Because his mindset capability is only manager level. We give him as any director, all the behavior is only hurt the company and damage the company and all that. And now I allow him to carry the title of director, but doing the job for a manager. And for an account that hypercare. Meaning, we have to spend another person to hypercare this account so that he will not do any further damage. And this is the playground. If this account school, he go. And he is getting the director salary to do a manager job. And that's the cost I pay. And he got no more increment. No more any other review until the day we think that he is changed. So, can he accept this? Cannot accept. Because he think we are sidelighting whatever. But for the company growth, he had to accept. For his family, he had to accept. For his own face or pride, he had to accept. Because we keep director and then we keep the job, we pay, and we also give the share. This is the best I can do for him. He had to take this plan and enjoy everything or zero. This is what I did for the same problem, but only one person, not two. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Ajay, any reflections, anything you want to share?
No, I think all these suggestions are valid. Possibly I'll have to pick and choose, what we can, or maybe decide, phase 1 we do this, phase 2 we do this. And maybe his is really the last. That we do this, we try the others. But yeah, all these suggestions are good, valid.
Okay, a round of applause everyone, thank you. Okay, so that was a bit of a simulation of the advisory board. So that's giving you a bit of a flavor of what it is we do in peer groups and peer networks. And you can see a bit of bond and trust and vulnerability already growing here in the room just by one afternoon. So this was just to give you a flavor. And that's the kind of things that you will get more of if you're part of EGN or a network. So what I wanted to end with now, because we only have 15 minutes left, I'm just going to share with you very briefly what EGN is, and most likely, at the end also, we have some questions. So anything you want to know about EGN, you can ask it in the group, or I will be here after. Donna is here, and Chris is also here if you have any questions you want to ask us one by one. So I just want to say that, for a start, we are part of the world's provider of professional peer groups, together with Vistage, who is here with us today, and 65,000 members globally, of which EGN is about 16,000. We are the fastest growing peer network in Southeast Asia, and EGN then expanded here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia last year, also expanded in Indonesia. It's a mixture of personal and professional networking. What we mean that we have formal sessions like this, but we also have networking evenings, we have social events and so on. And you are the ones who choose the topics, and very much in the way that we today brainstorm what are the most common topics. Talent retention was there, and that would be a topic that we would take a deep dive. We would then pull in some experts on talent retention to come and work with us and help us all, and you will share your strategies and best practice of talent retention, for example. The meetings are confidential. When you become a member, you sign a non-disclosure agreement so that they are confidential. Sometimes someone asks me, but what happens if someone breaks it? Well, we're not going to have any lawyers running after someone. That's not the point. We just want to set the scene that we respect each other, we honor each other, that this is a secret. This should be our safe space where we shouldn't go out and gossip what is discussed. We are here to help each other, and that's what we mean with that. We haven't had any issues, as far as I know, about the confidentiality being breached. We respect each other. So EGN was founded in the 90s in Denmark. I'm from Sweden, just across from Denmark. And then since then it has grown, and now 16 countries. And the format then of EGN is 6 peer group meetings a year for half a day, 4 hours. These sessions are scheduled 1 year in advance. So we do that 1 year in advance because at your seniority level, your calendar will be packed. So we need to make sure that these slots are there early on so that you can plan for it, make it easier to attend. In addition to the peer group meetings, you get the cross-functional events like we had the one this morning, and you will be invited to them when you can meet the other peer groups and so on. Also online with the networks in Jakarta and Singapore, so you can network across the border as well. So here is the Vistage slide. So Vistage have memberships also, and just a very brief comparison here, because I'm sure you have all heard of Vistage, and they have the full day monthly meetings, while we have half day bi-monthly. And the difference also is mainly that there's no one-on-one coaching in EGN, while Vistage has the coaching. So that's just to give you a little bit of a difference between the Vistage and EGN, and we're here to take any questions you may have about that. At EGN, we believe in the slogan, making each other better, which is what I believe we have done here today. We've been vulnerable, we shared our challenges, we have helped each other there. And I spoke about the personal value when you saw the plant growing, and I discussed how your network can be your net worth, like it's an investment in yourself for your future, when you want to be on boards, advising, consulting, that it is your value. We talked about the learnings, the financial value, and indeed, it's a no-selling environment. We're here to help each other. If someone wants to buy the services, absolutely, that's fine, but we're not here to push our services. So a typical meeting then is 4 hours, and it's divided in 2 parts. 2 hours is on a topic or a theme of the day. And if this was to be a peer group, talent retention would be one topic, and we would have an expert. We discuss that for 2 hours. The other 2 hours is like the advisory board, where we take turns discussing challenges and solving them. So we have 3 groups in KL so far, building the 4th group starting tomorrow. So do talk to us if you're interested in looking at which are the groups. We're also starting some social groups. In Singapore, we already have 30 social groups. Here are the 4 already in KL. So foodies, they're meeting for coffee, lunch, chit-chatting, where to eat, and so on. And it's between the different peer groups. We have a running group. They also go out for trekking, hiking, and so on, and walks, but running. We have a golf and a book club. And these groups are growing. We just launched one networking group now also between the 3 countries, where you can ask questions. I'm planning to expand my business to Indonesia and so on, and vice versa. And other members are interested in expanding in Malaysia. This was just the event we had this morning with Dato Idris Yala. So this is a sample of a speaking event, which all peer groups are invited. We had one earlier with Charles Brewer, who is with the Post here in Malaysia. They all come in and share their humble experiences of having run companies. So that's the community that you will be part of in EGN. So in summary then, this is the summary slide. You have your peer group meetings, we have expert panels, regional events, global webinars. The mobile app I discussed, where you can ask the network. You just click on a button in real time. You can ask the network a question. So you don't have to come to these meetings. You can sit at your desk and ask, okay, my HR department tell me that salary should go up 7% this year for this level. Is it correct? What do you do? Oh, then someone will reply, well, it's confidential, but my company is 5%. Someone else has 4%. So you can work in real time and helping each other on an app as well. We have the social gatherings, networking evenings, and so on. So that is all we had for today. And before I open up for a Q&A, which will be the rest of it, I just wanted to thank you all for being vulnerable. And I want to say again, if it's not for yourself, as we said before, it can be people around you, colleagues, friends, family, who might be going through challenges, who have something on their mind. So be there, be a human being, be there. Talk more, slow down, ask them if there's something they need help with, and you're going to do something good for humanity, because that's what it's all about, making each other better. So happy to take some questions now. Anything you want to know about what we discussed today, or about EGN, or we have the Vistage team here also, if you have any questions about Vistage.
I guess the price. This is for free.
So the price. So if we're looking at the price in Malaysia, I think it's 7,088 ringgit if I remember right, per year for the membership, per person. We have a corporate membership, which is cost a little bit more. The corporate membership works like so: you have two people nominated on membership. So if you're worried that you're going to travel a lot, you will miss sessions. If you're two, you can share a seat. If you prefer monthly membership, we have it also as a monthly subscription. Then I believe it's 708 ringgit, I think, per month as a subscription.
Same price.
Then it's if you pay for a year, you pay for 10 months. If it's monthly subscription, it's every month, so 12 times.
I see.
Yes.
What is the benefit of corporate?
So corporate is if you're very busy traveling, for example, you worry you cannot make the session, so you have 6 peer group meetings a year, and maybe you know that you're going to be in US, let's say 6 months of the year or whatever, you nominate one more person, so when you're not here, that person can take your seat.
So you can send a proxy, right?
You can set a proxy on the corporate membership, yeah.
And it's a different price, or?
Yes, a little bit more. I think Chris can tell you the exact, but 8.5, something like that.
So 7.8 you said?
7,088. Just 7,000 ringgit, a bit more.
Okay.
Is it true that you would be the only one from your company in a peer group?
So yes, unless you yes, even if you go on the corporate membership, then it's a proxy, so you're not both there because. And we want you to be the only one from your company in one group for the reason that maybe a challenge is relating to something in your work, a conflict. You probably don't want to have a colleague there. Plus, we don't want one company to come in and dominate the discussion in the peer group meetings. Yeah. So a peer group would be around this size. It's normally around this size. We are today around 18, 22, 24 people are discussing. When it comes to the cross-functional, it's a lot more because more groups. That's why we are in a bigger room. We've been here since this morning. We had more people here this morning for the event.
The corporate is basically one proxy or multiple proxy or?
You nominate one formal proxy, and should it be that for some reason none of you are available, then you can pull in someone else. We are, let's put it this way, we are friendly, we are flexible in those regards, and Donna, who's heading up the member service department, she has a whole team. And we will all be there to work with you. And we also have one rule that if for some reason none of you can make it for your meeting, and let's say you're sick or something happened, you can actually join another peer group to make up for it. So you will also have that. But we'll then check in so there's no competitor. We'll check in so there's no one from your company in that group.
Right. So how about the competitor?
So competitors, let's put it this way. I mentioned an example in Singapore where we have 19 groups. The regional director of KFC, Subway, and McDonald's, they're all members, and they go in different groups. Not necessarily, but they also have policies that they cannot sit around the table, for example. Some other companies have written rules so they cannot be discussing their challenges. And also, let's put it this way. If you are Coke, are you going to come in and put the recipe on the drink on the table just because it's confidential? No, right? That's not what it's about here. Again, it's about having a safe space. We can discuss our challenges, but the most confidential stuff you wouldn't trust to put on the table in a discussion with 20 people, yeah? But we're trying to do the housekeeping, to not have competitors, not having colleagues, so that we can have what we had today. I think from my side, we had a good conversation today. We've been open, we've been vulnerable, and that's what it's about. And you can imagine after a few meetings, the trust will grow more and more, and we will have follow-ups, we will hear how the business is going, and we will all learn. And we will share successes, celebrate successes, we will share failures and what we learn from the failures.
How about the mobile apps? I mean, like, if under corporate, how it works?
So the mobile app, Donna, the mobile app Members Universe. Yes.
All will have the app. So each one of you will have the access to the mobile app. And the good news is also, both of you can join any of the cross-functional events as well, all in one go. Only in the peer group meeting that you can take them.
So the cross-functional events, because we're now 900 members then in Singapore and Jakarta and in KL, so those are online. Every week there's something. We're discussing various topics and you can join in. That means you can network cross-border. Meet them in the meetings. You can connect with them on Members Universe, the app, one-on-one, where you can send messages and so on as well. Anyone else have any question?
So how many groups are there in Malaysia right now?
So there's 3 groups.
So 60 people.
About 35, 40 in a group, 35.
35 in a
Yeah. And out of 35, around 25 will show up. Yeah. There's always some traveling despite planning ahead.
Any chance we know the profile of the members?
We can share that one-on-one, so Chris can have that conversation with you and look at which group would be a good match for you. Tomorrow we start, we already have some waiting list for the next group, so we're starting also the next group tomorrow and can have a look at that.
And locations, venues?
Location venues is...
Normally either here or the AC by Marriott, another hotel.
So it'll be something like this then?
Yes.
Yes, similar.
Just
Like
set up.
Yes.
Yeah, set up 35.
Yeah. Okay. Then I would like to go around and just ask everyone, just say one word about your experience today. How did you feel, or any thoughts?
Great.
You can pause.
You can pass on, please.
Very refreshing.
Refreshing. Nice.
Eye-opening.
Eye-opening.
Very good.
Very good.
Insightful.
Awesome.
Knowledgeable.
Knowledgeable. Okay. Super.
Amazing. Insightful.
Appreciated. Casual. Impressed.
Wonderful.
Different.
Social. Definitely inspiring. Relaxing.
Sharing.
Learning.
Yeah.
Relationships. Knowledge sharing.
Thought provoking.
No more lonely.
Open-minded.
Open-minded.
Enlightening.
All right, thank you so much for that. And with that regard, we close the session for today with a team photo, I believe, right? Should we all come up for a photo? And the team will stay here, by the way, if you want to have a question to me personally, or Chris, or Donna, or someone else, we were here a few minutes, but let's have a team photo.